Good morning. I'm gonna do some ice fishing today, but the first thing I need to get into my system, obviously, is some coffee. I figured I'd film a ASMR video as I'm a little early to get there. Me and my buddies are supposed to meet at 8:39. It's like 7:30, and it's an hour away, so I'm gonna be there at 9. But I got some Dunkin' Donuts. It is regular cream and sugar. I normally get caramel swirl, but I figured I wouldn't do that this time just because I am trying to lose a little weight. So this sugar's enough, I think. But when I do go to Dunkin', I do need something in it. It's kind of like a treat, so if you're gonna get yourself a treat, might as well get yourself a treat, in my view. But I'm parked inside of a Shaw's parking lot. You can see it's pretty cloudy outside the window out there, which is good. It's gonna be nice out though, so it's gonna be 40, 45. So the ice is still pretty thick, but it's gonna be warm. And sadly, this is my first ice fishing this year. Normally I go a couple times, and I even bought myself a trap for myself. It's actually in the car, but my friend usually goes almost every weekend, and I was gonna go see if I can go with him last weekend, but I woke up too late, and he was basically done by the time I would have gotten there. So this weekend I am trying to get there pretty early. Yeah, this is the Shaw's I used to work at when I was a teenager. They used to call it the ghetto Shaw's. It was like the worst Shaw's in the area, I guess. I don't live in the ghetto or anything. But ever since then, it has actually gotten really, really upscaled. I went into it a couple years ago, and I found that like the floors are redone, the bottle machines I think were gone, or they were much better. Everything it looks nicer. When I worked there, everything looked kind of dingy. It was just an old Shaw's. And if you don't know what Shaw's is a grocery store. And I worked there for a number of years. 2 years, I think, 2 to 3 years. I started as a cashier, and then I worked my way up to being a like grocery guy. They put me in the back, and I got a pay raise, and it was great. I loved it. I got to work the baler, which is like where you crush cardboard and you go and you stock the milk and you stock the yogurts. Oh, this is so fun. It was perfect for a guy my age. And then after that, I went to college, started to get in my teaching degree. And then when I came back from college, I was looking for a job. I don't know why I didn't keep my Shaw's job. I don't remember why. But I guess I just put my 2 weeks notice in before I left for college, thinking I wouldn't be back. Stupid, dumb, young man there. But I had to go look for another job, but it worked out because I got a job at Whole Foods stocking overnight, and it paid substantially more. So I made way more money than I would have if I was just working at Shaw's again. So it actually worked out in the end. Going into Shaw's, it's still funny. I see people who I've worked with almost 10 years ago now, still working there. If you hear any tapping, that's me just tapping on my coffee here. Like, there's this person named Chuck who used to be a bodybuilder, and he works there now. He's much older now, so he's really skinny now. But he used to be a championship bodybuilder. Back in his heyday. You have a woman named Jackie, who was like the boss lady, like a badass. She still works there. Marianne or Anne works there, who was my childhood friend's mother's really, really sweet lady. She still works there. And when I go in there, there's this weird kind of connection that we just don't speak of. It is what it is. But, yeah. Ghetto Shaws. The only ghetto stuff I remember is one time a man was getting some deli meat, and he started cussing out the deli clerk. It was at like 8 o'clock at night, and like threatening her, and the police had to be called. And then another time, someone was putting bottles, I think it was a homeless person, was putting bottles into the bottle machines to count up some money. And he like cut himself, and I think he was like high. He didn't know about it. He was like bleeding all over the place. And unlucky for me, I was the person in charge of that area. So I had to like help him out and get him all wrapped up and stuff. But other than that, I don't remember many ghetto things happening. But speaking of Dunkin', I also did get a turkey sausage, egg, and cheese. It is breakfast time. And I am hungry. So I got our turkey sausage, egg and cheese here. And some crinkle sounds. Gotta find a thumbnail somehow. But, let's see if we can get into this. Once again, I went for the turkey instead of the regular sausage because I am trying to lose a little weight here. I used to be a real skinny bastard when I was running. And then I stopped running. And that will do things to you. But let's give it a taste test. I think with any type of sausage, if you put the cheese in, it's gonna do itself wonders. It is steaming. I don't think you all can see it, but it is steaming. But it's not hot, so that's interesting. It's not burn your mouth hot, but it's nice and warm. Well, after I did my one summer at Whole Foods, I ended up, going and staying in Farmington for the next 3 years. And Farmington's where the school I went to. So I ended up staying there for the rest of my college. I had some buddies who were upperclassmen. These are the same buddies I'm going to go ice fishing with. And they were looking for an apartment. I have no idea how I got put into this conversation because they had other friends they could have asked, and they probably did. But yeah, I got this apartment with them and my girlfriend at the time. And we lived there. And then I just stayed with those friends for the next 3 years, pretty much. And we had like a rotating shift of friends who would move in for a year if you were like a junior or a senior. And then once you're a senior, you would move out. So kind of like the orchestrator of all this was a senior. And he moved out when I was a junior. So I had another buddy who moved in when he was gonna be a senior. Then I moved out and he lived there for a year with some of his buddies. And we called it the cross country house because we all ran cross country and track. And it was a blast. We had house parties sometimes. And it was so fun. It was just fun to be with your friends all the time. But what happened was I started working in the mailroom, and I got a job at Dunkin' Donuts in Farmington. And that was my summer job in college. During the school year, though, I had a work-study job working in the mailroom. It only took about an hour and a half a day. And I would go and deliver mail to all the departments around campus. And that was real nice. Got a little bit of a paycheck while I'm having to work extreme hours. And I think that was it for my jobs in college. It was just summer jobs at Dunkin' or Whole Foods, and then work-study jobs in the mailroom. And I got myself through college. I obviously have some debt, but it wasn't crazy. And then I found a job at Pancras Valley Middle School. And I worked there for 3 years. And then I went to Central Middle School, which is really close to Pancras Valley. Worked there for 2 years. And then I wanted to move back down south where my friends were. So then I went to a Christian school, a Catholic school to be specific, Holy Cross. And I worked there for 1 year, and I would have loved to stay there. The great thing about a Catholic school is the kids are generally easier to manage. You don't have any observations as a teacher. There's less administrative stress. The administrator really doesn't observe you at all, at least at the school I worked at. They kind of just trust that you're doing the right thing. And the kids, like I said, are easier to manage. They're simply just, I'm going to call your parents if this is continuing, and they stop because their parents are paying money for them to go to the school. So, super easy to manage. The problem is, they don't pay a lot. So when I moved back down south, I took like a 15K income decrease, which would make it impossible for me to live on my own. So I had to live with my parents, which was fine. It was nice because, you know, you're not going to have many more years where you're really going to spend a lot of time with your parents. But I lived with them for a year, and I was really debating on, should I keep this job and just live with them for another year, or try to find a new job. And I was pushing the administrative side of this school to the limit, because they were thinking about, well, we need to know if you're going to be leaving or not. And I was saying, no, I have no idea. Until the very, very end. But when it did come, I still did not have another job lined up already. Every time I get hired, I'm getting hired in the summer. So I don't think schools hire, a lot of schools don't hire unless they have a specific person in mind immediately during the school year, it seems. But I had to make that decision, so I decided to risk it. I said, I'm done, I can't work here anymore. I love the school, I love this faculty, I love the kids. But they understood. They're smart people. They're like, you're a young man, you need to go on your own. So I sent in that letter. I got a letter of recommendation from the principal and another person, the science teacher. And I went starting to get interviews. And I got a number of interviews, but they were all for positions that, unless for one interview was one that I really thought I was going to get. They're all for positions I had no experience in, meaning like they were social studies, but they were like AP, you know, new AP like current events, or like AP high school, or things that I had no experience in. So I went for these interviews, trying my best, but understood that I probably wasn't going to get them. So what happened was I was getting denied. I think I got denied 3 times, I think. It was it wasn't frustrating, it wasn't worrying, because in the back of my mind, I always knew that, you know, my parents were going to kick me out. I wasn't like smoking weed in the house and not being like a deadbeat son. I was out there trying to find a job, and they're good parents, so they would have allowed me to stay if I really needed it. But the lucky thing was that my buddy, who I'm actually going ice fishing with today, said, hey, I'm leaving my current teaching job. I got a new job. Would you like for me to put in a good word for you? And I said, hell yeah. So he ends up getting me an interview in this new teaching position at this new school, and it's in New Hampshire. Now, I had already kind of put my mind to it that if I have to teach in another state, I will do that. That's no problem, as long as it's in like a general, you know, area of southern Maine. This is only an hour away. So I said, yeah, I'll look into it. I went for the interview. He told me everything that they were basically going to ask me, so I went in very, very prepared. And lo and behold, I got the job. And the funny thing is, the kids all obviously know this other teacher. So the first kind of thing I was talking to them about is how I play Fortnite and go ice fishing and went to this man's wedding. And it was like a perfect in to a number of these kids who really liked Mr. Blank. So they kind of let me in. which was awesome. It worked out pretty well. Now, the plan for the rest of my work is to stay here for 3 to 5 years. What I'm going to do is max out the pay scale at this district. The pay scale right now is not high. I'm getting paid same amount I would if I worked at another school due to the experience I have, but their scaling stops at a certain number, if that makes sense. So like, if you work here, let's just say, I think it's like 15 years, you don't get another pay increase, which sounds insane. I don't know how they even get away with that. But other schools, you would keep getting those pay increases. So there's like a salary cap at this district. So I'm gonna work my way up to the salary cap, and then I am gonna go try to find a place where I can make more money, as it is economically smart. But yeah, I keep saying I like this school. It's one of my favorite schools I've worked at. But I don't know how this ramble got to work history, but I love it. And I'm going to call it ASMR, my work history, ramble, boom. And then go ice fishing. But I hope you enjoyed. If you did enjoy, hit the like button. If you haven't subscribed, subscribe. I do take comments seriously. I do take any suggestions if you want anything new. But I do have to hit the road to get to the ice fishing spot. Oh, wish me luck. Hope we catch a lot of fish today. Alright, bye-bye.